A message was received at 1730 GMT, 13 March 2018. Its origin was Proxima Centauri. I was one of the SETI researchers on site when the artificial signals reached us, just 2 years after the launch of the Breakthrough Listen project. The signals were first picked up by the Allen Telescope Array, where I was stationed, and later confirmed by other observatories. Since we receive more data that we can store, we have to do signal analysis in real time. This work is usually tedious, but one of the most exciting things in the world if you come across a signal that looks artificial. In this case, all of the criteria were met. It would still take a long time to confirm the detection, but just looking at the signals convinced us that we had finally found the first clear evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. As soon as the other observatories confirmed they could see the same signals and informed us that they had reached the same conclusion, we cheered. This was a discovery of a lifetime. The post-detection policy made it clear that sooner rather than later, this information would be shared with the world. Certain things would have to be taken into consideration by a SETI committee first though, such as political, cultural, and religious reactions to the nature of the message itself. But there were no reasons to suspect that this would be kept a secret. However, after a few months, after we had sent all the data to the higher-ups in the project, strange things began to happen. The first thing was that the researchers involved, both at the ATA and the other observatories, were denied access to the facilities. The project wasn't shut down. Officially it's still ongoing, but in reality, no one is actually working on it anymore. The second thing that happened was that we received an email where the management at SETI claimed that our discovery had been the result of interference from a Chinese spy satellite. I didn't believe that at all. I became more and more convinced that it was a cover-up and they tried to keep our findings hush-hush. A few weeks later, one of my colleagues in Australia, who had been pushing for the release of the information early on, was found dead in his bathtub. It was ruled as a suicide, but for me it was the final proof that SETI, and perhaps some government agency, were shutting us up. I spent a long time contemplating what to do, if anything, and ultimately decided my life was worth more to me than becoming a whistleblower, forever having to look behind my back. However, everything changed when I got a letter sent from my colleague before his death. Since he lived on the other side of the world, the letter had arrived late. The envelope only contained one thing, an SD card. It held a single text file named The Transmission. It was the message from Proxima Centauri. My hand trembled as I opened the file. I felt like I, in doing so, doomed myself to the same fate as my colleague. I have no idea how he got his hands on the information. It wasn't the raw data, but the version of it that had been deciphered by the people at SETI that we had sent it to. To my surprise, the extraterrestrial message was written in English. Either the researchers working on it had translated it somehow, or the being who sent it to us had translated it for us by studying our radio transmissions. I have read the text, and a part of me understands why they would want to keep it a secret, but I still think people deserve to know the truth. It's just not right to lie to the world about something like this, however horrible it may be. Hence, I've decided to post the document here, where I know that people will take it as serious as it should be taken. Below, I've pasted the entire text file. Classified information, for authorized personnel only. Sent, approximately March 2014. Received, 031318 1030 PT. Origin, Proxima Centauri. Location, the Allen Telescope Array. Transmission. For self-preservation, observe the following. Number 1. Life arose elsewhere in the galaxy. What you call the panspermia theory is true. Number 2. The master species come from an unknown planet beyond our sector of space. Their appearance is insignificant and easily mistaken for an ordinary small plant with blue-colored leaves. They have no intelligence of their own and only survive and spread through the intelligence of their former predators. They evolved to modify their predators' genetic code in such a way that they become protective toward them rather than aggressive. Affected species, slave species, change both physically and psychologically. Their aggressiveness toward threats to the master species increases, and alterations to their phenotypes make them stronger. The genetic changes occur within a germline, which means that the offspring of the slave species are also affected and share their parents' protective behavior toward the master species. The spores of the master species traveled with the wind and ended up covering larger areas than was evolutionarily necessary. The planet's entire predatory fauna was consumed. At some point in their history, the spores reached a large brain species on one of the planet's continents. The species evolved in symbiosis with the master species, and after a million years, they spread the spores of the master species into space. They came to my world. The first sign was the flowers. They were discovered in the jungle and believed to be a new native species to the region. However, no relatives to it could be found, which raised questions about their true origin. The flowers weren't beautiful, and yet they aroused a peculiar interest among our scientists. A healthy fascination soon became a pathological obsession. That was the first sign of cognitive changes. The prevalence of violence rose sharply in the region where the flowers had been found. That was our second sign of cognitive change. The flower became the subject of worship, and a strange new religion formed. Riots within our populated areas became common, followed by total anarchy. It was at this point the physical changes began to appear. Horrific mutations that started small but over time turned our people into unrecognizable beasts. A while later, the interstellar fleet of their most intelligent slave species arrived in our system. They slaughtered us by the use of antimatter bombs dropped from orbit to make sure our culture would fall, just as our biology had already done. I'm the last unaffected individual of my species, stationed on an outpost in our asteroid belt. Number 1. Watch out for any small, seemingly insignificant flower with a pale blue color. They're coming for you. End of transmission.